Are you, are you ready still?
I am ready still. Always ready. Born ready, sir.
What's up, man? How
What's
are
going
you?
on, my friend? How are you?
Good. Good.
Good. You're looking good. You're looking healthy. You're looking tan. Not tan.
I was um I was faking bacon this morning early.
You're faking bacon.
Fake faking bacon.
That's good stuff, dude. Yeah, I could tell.
You
Do
ever
you
go
have like a tanning bed in your house?
in my house? Yep.
Wow, that's
hmm
legit. You've made it, dude. You know when you know you've made it? You have a tanning bed in your
That's
house.
when you know
And
you've
then
reached true financial freedom. Is
true
when you have
financial freedom.
a spray tan booth in your house.
Faking bacon's not a spray tan booth. It's like a bed that
Oh
you lay
man.
in, isn't it? And then you what I find to be amazing though is you laid in your faking bacon bed and you came out still like really white, which you're not even red. So your whiteness
How
is
did we get even
very
on this topic? This is
powerful. I don't even know, dude.
this is awful.
It is awful, but it's awesome. What are we
It's
talking
awesome.
about today? What's this
Well,
podcast all about?
this is Phil in the Storehouse podcast, episode, I don't even know. But
Almost 50, dude. It's got to be almost 50,
Yeah, we're
which is
close.
awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah, so this we're gonna do a replay of a webinar that our friend John Laney did. We had him on a couple months ago, and John Laney's become a good friend of ours. He's an investor of ours through Storehouse 310. But he retired from the Navy, did 20 years of service. He's a Naval Academy alumni, and we've just gotten to be real close to him and connected, and um, he's doing something a little different. Not the kind of the normal path that most people take after doing 20 years of service in the military. And we're going to let him talk about it in his webinar. But I kind of wanted to just reflect on it a little bit and give some thoughts, or allow
Yeah,
you to.
oh, sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, go ahead.
So I think a couple things. One, I've been loving the webinars, been giving people an opportunity to log in and see folks present, the things that they're either doing or, just a educational platform. And I think with this one, you know, John has a strong why, and it's really resonated with us. And the things that he's choosing, the reason he's doing the things that he's doing, and his choice to go down to Mexico and serve post retirement, take his family down there, and all the experiences that entails is really part of his financial freedom journey. And he gets to talk through his very intentional life choices that him and his family are embarking on these adventures, because it's all part of what, service and the things that are important to him and what he wants to do. So I really liked this webinar. I really liked the every time we talked to him, man, just a really cool dude. But just loved his life of service, obviously to the military first, but also his faith and his pursuit of financial freedom to enable him to have the time and the resources to be able to go do these things that he's passionate about. And so just really a big fan of John Laney, and a big fan of what he's doing. And I think people will enjoy this.
Yeah, and something that I don't really know how much if I'm kind of remembering correctly, he didn't really talk a ton about like what he's actually doing down there.
Mm.
A lot of it was kind of about setting yourself up for financial freedom. What does that really look like? What does wealth look like? What is
Yep.
what's the meaning and the purpose and the why? But to kind of cover that, he's took his entire family, moved down to Mexico, and he's calling it a 1 year sabbatical, before he goes back to kind of the American life. But they're down there serving, they're down there in Mexico, working with an orphanage, um, and helping, uh, you know, families, and serving a community that desperately needs help and guidance. And I think it's funny that when he talked to us earlier, he's like, "Yeah, I don't know any Spanish at all." Uh, and that's that's courageous, and I think it's really cool what he's doing. He's using his uh, the he's set himself up and his family, through this financial freedom path, through his investments and his planning, living below his means, and this passive income that he's created over these last couple of years to be able to allow him and his family to go serve, to go help others. And it's obviously a passion that we have. It's something that David and I talk about all the time, of how we can continue to do that. And I think it's something that we'll probably look at when we get closer to getting out of the Navy, of how we can do more of that kind of stuff, is go and travel and make an impact to other people and places. So it's pretty cool, man. It's inspiring for sure.
Yeah, buddy. Well, let's get to it.
All right. So John does do like a PowerPoint presentation. So, if you are listening to this, it might be worthwhile to go back and actually watch the YouTube video of it, because there's some good stuff that he puts in his presentation. There's some good links and some good resources and stuff that he talks about. So um, go subscribe to our podcast. Go give 5-star reviews, and share this. Spread the word of Filling the Storehouse. We would greatly appreciate it. And most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends.
See you.
See ya.
All right. We are recording, so that way we can send this to all of our registrants. Most, hopefully, all know John, but if not, they know David and myself. David and I have been working with John for a while now, and we got connected through just our paths of the Naval Academy. And John has been investing with us in Storehouse 310 Ventures for a while now, and we've really just become good friends, and just enjoy every single time that we talk with John. And John had first told us that he was going to move to Oregon and go buy a tree farm on our last podcast that we had him on, and he said he was going to go tour all the national parks around the United States after retiring from the Navy. But I think someone up above had some different plans for him, and I know he's on a different path. And what we've just kind of been racking our brains on what we could talk about with John and his plans, his actions after retirement. And so we wanted to have him on and do like a webinar, but we also want to turn this into an additional podcast. He's already been on once with us on Filling the Storehouse podcast, but we'd like to have kind of a follow-on to see where he is now and what he's doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to John. I'm going to give him host capabilities so he can share his screen. And we'll go from there. See if I can figure this out again. And John, you are the host. And now you can share your screen, buddy.
Hey, John, you're on mute, bud.
Okay, there we go.
Nice.
Hopefully you should be able to see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Picture of a nice airplane with a beautiful car in it, and that's the start. So yes, Stu and I, I and Dave have known each other for probably about last 2 years, and it's certainly been a pleasure doing business with them. We've done a couple house purchases and some other business, and it's always been excellent. So the intent of this webinar, as the title shows, is really to give a clear-eyed vision. And please let me know if the audio is good. The intent of the webinar is to give a clear-eyed vision of what financial freedom really does look like. And just as the slide shows, I tell you what, it certainly doesn't look like that. Although that's what's sold. get rich quick books, want to be financially free. That's what's sold. The car, the plane, and the time on the beach is sold. It's not really what it looks like. And the bottom line is financial freedom doesn't look a whole lot different than life does 6 months ago. Okay, shifting slides. Okay. So before we get in, I want to give you a couple definitions. And the reason I'm giving you the definitions is so that if you don't like what we're talking about, you can roll out now. So I'm not wasting your time. And the key thing to understand, and if there's anybody that's not muted, if you could go ahead and mute yourself, that way I don't get too much feedback. Super. All right, I think we got everybody muted. Okay. All right. So I want to give a couple definitions so that if this is not for you, you can roll out right now. So Chris Rock does a great job, and the link is right on the bottom. You can Google it. But Chris Rock defines the difference between rich and wealth, and he does a great job talking through it. After you get off, when your kids are in bed, certainly listen to it. But being rich, when people think of financial freedom, they think of being rich. It's not what we're talking about. Being rich is having a lot of money and spending a lot of money. Furthermore, being rich is always relative to somebody else. And you know, I'm an engineer, and the way I like to put everything in an equation. Being rich is whatever your current lifestyle is times 2. Take somebody in Africa, they look at somebody in Mexico and they say, "Man, they're rich." Somebody in Mexico looks at me, says, "Man, John's rich." John looks at somebody in the nice San Diego suburbs. He's like, "Man, they're rich." They look at Warren Buffett. So it's a never-ending game. Take what you have now, multiply it by 2, and that's what your definition of rich is. That is not what we're talking about. That's the plane, that's the car, that's the time on the beach. It's not what we're talking about. On the other hand, wealth is very different. And the way I define wealth is how long you can live on the assets that you have. And it's only relative to you and your family. And so if you take it as a definition, it's your passive income divided by your lifestyle. So if your lifestyle requires $5,000 a month and you have $2,500 of that coming in, say you're 50% wealthy. Your lifestyle requires $5,000 a month, you have $5,000 coming in, then you've achieved that wealth of a 1.0, 100%, 1.0. Okay, which then leads us into financial freedom. And financial freedom is simply that opportunity that wealth gives you. It's just an opportunity. It's just ink in your pen. It's the opportunity that you can take it to either retire, volunteer, play golf, sit on the beach, and start a business, fund a nonprofit, take a sabbatical, read a bunch of books, or continue in the job that you have without being driven by the need for a salary. So you really got to be clear on this difference. Being rich is winning the lottery. Man, I just won the lottery. I just got $5 million in my bank account. Being wealthy is owning the rights to the Michael Jackson album Thriller. You might not have a whole lot of, it might not be a big pile of money, but it's a money machine that is going to continue to replenish for the rest of your life. Being rich is that pile of money. You got a big pile of money, but there's no way to replenish it. Once it's gone, it's gone. So you got to spend it wisely. Wealth, you'll have less money, but you've got a machine. You've got that proverbial golden goose that every day, every month, every year lays you a little golden egg. You can take that little golden egg and live on that little golden egg. So going back to the wealth example. So there's 2 things that are critical when you look at wealth in order to have financial freedom. That's the income that's coming in, There's two things that have to be managed. So one is the income coming in. The second is you have to manage your lifestyle. So it's a two-part equation. You could push your lifestyle all the way to poverty, and maybe it'll be easier to be wealthy, or you could raise your lifestyle, but then you also have to raise your passive income. So it's a two-factor equation, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. So if you came here just to learn how to get rich quick and get that plane and that time on the beach, probably not the right the right webinar for you. So you're gonna roll out now. All right, fortunately no one rolled out. Okay. So I'm gonna give you the story. This is my story of how I got to where I am now. I got my very first paycheck in the summer of 2020. I graduated from college. Man, you get that first paycheck and man, you are rich. Like by all accounts, you've just doubled, tripled what you've ever gotten in your life. And that first paycheck, take it to the bank and man, you are rich. So I got my first paycheck, that was great. A couple years later, I had an idea. And I heard that if you stay in the Navy long enough, you can get this pension. You get a retirement pension for the rest of your life. Wow, that's great. What if I took that pension, that retirement pension? What if I saved a bunch of money? What if I maybe had some houses that were already paid off? What if I took that money, lived frugally, and after I completed my 20 years, I got out of the Navy, I didn't have to work again. I thought, wow, that'd be a great idea. Like what a total fantasy. Great idea. So throughout my time in the Navy, I had that idea. Now I was really lucky because I put in some principles. And the principles I put in is that I lived below my means. I took the rest of the money that I had and I invested that money. I also was fortunate in that I was able to purchase some houses and I was able to keep those houses during the time that I had moved from place to place in the Navy. So as my time in the Navy was concluding in about the 2017 timeframe, I still had the idea. Of, hey man, wouldn't this be great if I could be done with the Navy, wouldn't have to work in, had that financial independence. Wouldn't this be great? I got a couple houses, I've got a pile of money. Hey, this is going to work out swimmingly. Well, then I ran the numbers. And what I had discovered that I had is that I had a pile of money. I didn't have wealth. What I had was I had a bucket of money in stocks, which don't produce wealth. I had a bucket of money in my IRA, in my thrift savings plan, which is my military version of the 401k, which I couldn't access that until I was 60. And then I had 4 or 5 houses, and they were all cash flow negative. So every month, instead of them giving me money, I was paying out money to them. It's like, okay, well, this clearly is not going to work, and I need to do something real quick, real fast if I want to have that dream, that vision that I had to be financially independent in 2020. Okay. So things didn't look good. So what I did, and I certainly don't recommend this, I worked very fast and I probably took more risks than wise. But I knew that if I was going to get out in 2020, my goal was summer 2020, I needed to move very quickly. And so what I did very quickly is I sold the houses that I had, all the houses that were cash flow negative. I said, hey, these are the houses that I lived in. Got to get rid of these, and I've got to get some other properties. So I sold those houses, and I bought 6 investment properties, turnkey investment properties, both through Storehouse 310 and another company out of Memphis. Okay. I also started with another company to build a fourplex in Idaho. It's called the Fourplex Investment Group. So I jumped on that. Then I did 6 syndications as a limited partner and some hard money loans. So what I did is I took the pile of money that I had, I pulled out from my I pulled the principal out of my IRA. I pulled the principal out of my TSP. I was fortunate there's a COVID withdrawal that allowed me to pull out a bunch of principal from my TSP. I took the principal that was in my house, that was in my houses. Fortunately, I had them on a 15-year mortgage. So I had some principal, although they were cash flow negative, I had some principal with those houses. I was able to pull the principal out of those houses and then reinvest those into assets that produced wealth, into money machines, cash flow machines, with the houses, with the syndications, with the hard money loan. And the great thing about converting it from a pile of money to a money machine is if you maintain the machine, you keep an eye on the machine will never go away. Those houses that I now have will continue to get rent, and the principal of it will never go away. So it's, again, a difference between the pile of money, which you keep taking from, keep frittering away, and a money machine, which if you don't kill the goose, if you don't kill the golden goose, you can maintain that indefinitely. Okay. So 4 months ago, hard to believe, I had my change of command, my retirement ceremony, and I was probably 95% of the way on the pathway for financial independence. Now, you never truly get there, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. But my story was a risky story. Certainly don't recommend that story, but everybody's got their story. Hopefully the people that are listening are a little bit earlier down in their life than I am, and can do the same things, take those same principles, but go a little bit slower. Okay, next slide. All right. So this brief, this PowerPoint is not necessarily to talk about the principles, but to talk about what it looks like for me. So I only want to spend just a few minutes on these principles. Hey, Travis, welcome. Okay, so I only want to spend just a few minutes on that. If you want principles, there's a ton of gurus out there. Shoot, Stu and Dave have their own investment group. There's a ton of gurus out there. I've got a bunch of links in the back of the show notes that I can email to everybody, and you can look at those principles. But I'll tell you the principles I used. First principle is my time is worth more than my money. I looked at the rest of my life after I retired, and I said, I've got a once in a lifetime opportunity. I can stop working, do something else that's meaningful, and invest the remainder of my life into something else, or I can continue to work because the money is more valuable than my time. So I made a very conscious decision that my time was worth significantly more than my money. Okay. The second one is the habit of living below your means. If you're going to be financially independent, you have to live below your means for the rest of your life. It's not just, for a season of life. You have to live below your means for the rest of your life. Because if you don't, you're going to be tempted to kill that golden goose to try to get the rest of the gold out, and then you're going to blow that money machine that you had. So it's a mindset that you've got to you're always going to be forced to live below your means for the rest of your life. Okay. Finally, the principle of again, this is the difference between a pile of money and a money machine. Cash flow will always beat cash. Your money machines will always beat a pile of money, and wealth always beats riches. And if you're not 100% clear on that, we'll have plenty of time that we can talk after this to answer any questions. My final principle, this is why I took the risk, is I knew what I was doing, making a bunch of rapid fire real estate transactions was pretty risky. However, I knew that if I had a catastrophic failure, I was still young, I still had a pension, I still had I still had my health care, that the risk for taking a catastrophic failure basically means I go back to work, which not a terrible deal for a 43-year-old guy. I go back to work for another 10 or 15 or 20 years, just like everybody else. So I gave myself permission to take that risk with my wife's concurrence and, and knowledge. And my dad laughing in the background here. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Meaning. All right. Who are these guys? You know who these guys are? Put in the comments if you know it. All right. So these are three philosophers. And the three philosophers all asked the basic question. And the basic question was, why does mankind, why do we get up in the morning? Like, what drives us? Why do we do what we do? Why do we get up, work hard, do our work? Why do we get up in the morning? Why just stay in bed and just roll over and die? And the first guy was Nietzsche. And Nietzsche said, well, it's obvious. Men get up in the morning for power. That is what drives mankind. I want power. I want power over you. I want power over things. I want money. And I want the power that money can buy. Money, power can buy. I want power. Which is, I mean, it's not a bad answer. You know, I've been in the Navy for a while. I've had power. I like power. It's fun. I certainly don't, can't complain against his take on power. But the second guy, Freud, he came around and he said, nah, Nietzsche, men don't get up for power. They get up in the morning for pleasure. That's why men live. Don't you want to go hang out on the beach? Don't you want to have a family? Don't you want to have all the pleasure that money can buy? Don't you want that enjoyment, for pleasure? That's why people get up. That's why we have children. That's why babies. Like, isn't that obvious? And I mean, I have to agree with him too. Like, pleasure is good. But there comes an end to pleasure. You find the end for power, you find the end for pleasure. Then the last guy came around. And the last guy, we were very fortunate that the last guy came around. And his name was Viktor Frankl. And he actually spent a few years in a Nazi prison camp. And he said, you know what? I understand the power. I understand the pleasure. But the reason men get up in the morning is not for either of those. It's for meaning. It is for a life of meaning. It's to invest in something, generally in other people and in other things, and it's to invest in things that are bigger than you for a life of meaning. And I tell you what, when you find meaning, when you find that thing that is meaningful to you, like, there's no limit on it. There's limits on power, there's limits on pleasure, but there's not limits on meaning. You will get up in the morning. If you find something that is meaningful, you get up in the morning, every morning, wide awake, 4:30 in the morning, drive to what you're trying to do and just be completely enamored by your meaning. And I tell you what, like, I've certainly found that to be true. So the reason I bring this up in financial independence is, if you want to be financially independent, your spreadsheet has to work. So the money side has to work, but also the meaning side has to work. And this is critical, especially for men, because men tend to find their meaning through production, just generally through their job. They find meaning through their job. What are you? I'm a mechanic. I'm a carpenter. I'm a naval officer. That's where I find my meaning. Women, on the other hand, tend to find their meaning through relationships. That's often through their family. So when you end your job, because I'm now, oh, check, I've now won the lottery. I'm now financially independent. Oh, life is great. Well, you may have that money that you need, but you need to go off and find new meaning. And that's something that's been very key. And it's been very acutely noticed by this guy who just 3 months ago left his last 20 years of meaning. So as you look at financial independence and financial freedom, don't forget about meaning and finding something that is meaningful to you, because it's going to be a hard transition. Anytime you go from 40 hours a week or more for something that's meaningful to making a shift, it can certainly be a hard transition. There is, and in the notes, you may want to take a look at it, but there's and you can Google it. It's a Twilight Zone story, and it's called A Nice Place to Visit. And it's the Twilight Zone. The story outlines what hell could look like, and it's a hell of getting all the power and all the pleasure you want. And it's a guy that dies, and he wakes up in a white room, and there's a man in a white suit, and he figures, hey, like there must be somebody. He died in a bank robbery. He figures, there must be some mistake. Like, but I'm here in a white room with a man in a white suit. Not going to complain about this. The guy gives him everything he wants. You want new cars? Get a new car. You're going to go gamble? Get all the money you want. You want women? Sure. Get all you want. Want food? Sure. So he crashes his cars, burns down his house, like throws all his money away. Like after months of this, he goes back to the man in the white suit, and he says, I hate it here. This is terrible. Like I've got all this money. Get away from me. I hate all this. Send me to the other place. And the man looks at him and says, my son, this is the other place. What makes you think that you're in heaven? Cue the evil laughter, and and the show ends. Great show, or great episode. But it's called The Twilight Zone: A Nice Place to Visit. So, as you look into a transition, that is certainly something to keep in mind, is the meaning aspect. What are you doing that is going to be meaningful as you move on? All right. Next slide. So, what does financial freedom really look like for me? And sorry for the downer, but it really looks about the same as work. There's what I do more of. What I do naturally, I do more of. I have a small business. And what am I doing? What did I do this morning? Well, I get up at 5 a.m. and I'm working on that small business. I'm doing the same things that I normally do. I'm just doing more of it. I cook, I'm doing more cooking. Play with my kids, I'm doing more cooking. I'm playing with the kids more. So both the good and the bad becomes amplified. I'm playing more, I'm cooking more, I'm enjoying more time with my family. But the negative emotions and the negativity that I can experience also gets amplified. Clearly, I'm finding myself as a workaholic. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. to do things that I didn't expect that I would be doing at this stage of my life as a financially independent individual. There's an idea out there, and it's an idea that if I only had, then I would be. So for example, if I only had more time, then I would be a happier person. If I only had more money, then I could be more generous. If I was only retired, then I'd be happier. But, it's really quite the opposite. You ask a guy on the street and you say, hey, what do you want to be? He says, well, of course, I want to be a millionaire. Well, why do you want to be a millionaire? So I can have a boat, so I can have a car, so I can have, all these things in life. Well, why do you want to have that? Well, so I can be happy. You're going about it just opposite. It's not have something to be something. It's not have, be, do. It's be, do, have. You have to be the type of person that you want to be, not have something that will make you happy, not have something that will make you be the person that you want. Just having more money is not going to make you more generous. And I'm seeing that in myself now. I have money here down in Mexico, and that there's not a direct translation to having more to then becoming something. You need to be that person before you become financially independent. So, the bottom line is really, if you want to be financially independent, if you want to be financially free, get your act together before you get to that point rather than after that point. So what am I doing now? So as you can see some of the pictures, I'm using this opportunity. I'm using this time, this 1-year sabbatical, to look for opportunity. I'm looking for those things that provide opportunity, that provide meaning to me. I'm doing a complete 180 shift from what I did. I was chuckling to myself a couple of weeks ago. I was helping clean some toilets. I was like, going from a Commodore in the Navy to cleaning toilets, and is quite the shift. But doing things like that, doing a whole range of different types of jobs, will help me find that next step and help me find that meaning for the next step. I'm also fortunate that I'm overseas. I'm in Mexico, and so certainly for me, the math for that financial independence is certainly in my favor. We've gone. See a picture of the tarantula. We've gone tarantula hunting. Time on the beach. I'm now teaching school. Little picture of my boys and I at a little taco shop. If you notice, you got the chicken right in the bottom corner. So that is life for me, and that is what my financial freedom looks like. It looks like a lot of the same, but it also looks like a opportunity to pause and to try to find the next thing and try to find meaning through the next thing. So I'm glad I'm calling it a 1-year sabbatical. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it will turn into a 2-year sabbatical, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Okay. It's my last slide. Tell you a story of a Mexican fisherman. You may have heard the story before. But a MBA businessman goes down to a little town in Mexico, and he sees this fisherman with a small little boat, one net, maybe a bicycle. And says, "Hey, man, I've been watching you, and you go out for a couple hours a day. You kind of go out around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, come back by noon. Why don't you work 8 hours and really crank up on those fish? And if you worked 8 hours and got some more fish, you go buy a bigger boat, go a little farther offshore, get a whole lot more fish out of that. Go buy yourself an F-150 truck, get a new nice house for your wife. And if you keep this up, you may even kind of corner the market down here in Mexico. You could have a ton of money. You do great. Have all the things you wanted." And fisherman says, "Well, that sounds great. About how long would that take?" And the businessman says, "Well, you work hard, you do all that stuff, Probably take you, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And the fisherman's like, well, yeah. And then what? So doesn't man like, and then what? What do you mean? Shoot, do anything you want. You can sleep late, take siestas, play with your children, stroll into the village, play your guitar, sip wine, do whatever you want. The guy's like, yeah, but I do that now, and I enjoy my life now. Don't need to wait 15 years for it. So as you look at me, look at what I have, look at the ideal, our first slide of the airplane and the car, and the the airplane and the car, and the luxury on the beach, and then you compare it to our Mexican fisherman who sleeps late, plays a little, fishes a little, plays with his children, takes siestas, strolls into town and sips wine and plays the guitar with his amigos. I really encourage you to enjoy what you have, be what you want to be now, whether you are financially independent, on the pathway to financially independent, not even close there, and that is really what matters. So, as you look at what you want to be in the future, please don't neglect the things that you currently have. So with that, it's been half an hour talking, a little bit less. Certainly open to questions, and I don't see certainly open to questions in the you can certainly do it in the comments. I'll have to figure out where the comments are, but there's I'm certainly open to questions, and I'm certainly happy to talk about my mechanics, how I did things, and the houses that I bought, and sort of my numbers. So I'll talk about the mechanics all day long, but I'm also interested in talking about the philosophy of financial independence and really thinking through how your mind shifts, the things that you need to think about, the pitfalls that you need to think about, kind of the things that I've experienced that I can help you with. So, happy to talk about both things, but I'm certainly more interested in the philosophy of rather than the mechanics of. Finally, there's my contact information below. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you more offline if that's something that would be of interest. So with that, let me figure out where the, or actually, I think we only have a handful of folks. So go ahead and unmute yourself if you can, and feel free to ask any questions.
Hey, John, stop sharing your screen so we could probably see people's faces.
Stop share. There we go. Oh, look at that. Okay, we got a lot of people. I only saw 4 people. I thought I was talking to just myself.
That's awesome.
Makes me feel better. I only saw 4.
Hey, John, really appreciate you kind of giving us some insight into your thought process. And obviously, we've had you on the podcast before. We've had a long relationship with you. We've talked a lot of, what I find to be awesome is a lot of the philosophy of investing in business is really what has gotten us in our partnerships, me, you, and Stu, the power of trust, the speed of trust, all these different philosophical means and the way that the conversations we have. And you're just a dude that adds a ton of value through whether it's DoD reads and your groups on LinkedIn with the commanding officers. I mean, everything that you do, all the things that even some of the other projects that we talked about previously as well, just some of the things I didn't even know about that you're doing with the tying to Navy systems, and whether it was getting gear or helping people write fit reps. I mean, all those are fascinating stories, but just some takeaways that I took is just how intentional you were with this, that this kind of stuff doesn't just happen, right? You have to have a plan. You have to be intentional. You have to make choices, live below your means, look where you invest, how you partner, research what asset classes to invest in, look for different returns. I mean, just all this intentionality, and just really appreciate you sharing, just the thought process behind that. So it was awesome, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for. I appreciate having me on. I really appreciate it, and it helps me kind of clarify my thoughts too as I look to the future. I've only been doing this for 3 months, so just putting this stuff down on paper helps me think through what kind of person I want to be, and think through, be able to articulate, be, do, have, not get that goofed up.
It's like someone was trying to talk. I think Mary wrote something in the chat here, just thanking you.
Okay.
So one thing that that goes through David in my mind is this this whole idea of meaning and the why. And I'm just curious from your perspective, like, when did you start kind of thinking about that? And we all have this, for those of us in the military, like you said, we all have this mission of being in the military, but as soon as we leave the military, that ends. And I think a lot of that transcribed to a lot of the issues that military members are having after they leave the military, with suicide and PTSD and things of that sort, because they don't have anything to get up to anymore. So if you would take a step back, like, what would you recommend for those that are still in, and how they can kind of plan for that?
Yeah, man, that's tough. That's really tough. So I'm reading a book called The Second Mountain. My dad just gave it to me just about a week ago. And the premise for The Second Mountain is many people, successful people, climb the first mountain of their career. Okay, I want to be a CEO, whatever. I want to be a whatever. And they climb that mountain, and they get to the top of that mountain, and they've done 30 years, 40 years, whatever. I'm a commanding officer. Great. Good for you. Done. And they look around, they're on that mountain. They're like, is that it? Like, what else? Like, what else? Where else do I go now? Like, do I be a commanding officer again? Like, is it really going to get any better? No. The premise is, okay, the second mountain is the mountain of meaning. And the second mountain is of investing in other people. And I've just started the book. So we'll do this again in a week. But finding meaning outside of the military, and it's so tough because it's a very clear, you're very clearly needed, and your contribution is critical to the unit's success, and you certainly aren't going to get it, quite to that extent outside the military. I think the first thing is just recognizing it. Just recognize it. And I saw a beautiful graph, and it shows the emotional trajectory of someone getting out. So they're getting out, they're like, oh yeah, I'm out, I'm retired, woohoo, I'm retired. And then it just like drops down. And everybody goes to the valley. You retire, like you go to the valley. You change jobs, you go into the valley. Everybody goes into the valley. And then there's the difference. Some people just stay in that valley, and man, you see them on LinkedIn. They've got a new job, like 20 years in the military, and then new job. You're like, whew, they had a rough go at it. Some people kind of, put around. Some people are able to find new meaning through it and are able to excel. So my pathway was twofold. One is reading the Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a super easy book to read. It's more of an essay. If you haven't read it, read it. The second article that I read, I just put in the notes, it's called The Passionless Pilot. And it's basically why following your passion rather than meaning is just a bunch of baloney. And there's tribal knowledge. There's everybody will tell you, follow your passion. Oh, get out of the Navy, follow your passion. Graduate from college, follow your passion. Oh, do what you love. And that, frankly, is just absolute baloney. If I followed my passion when I was in high school, I like be a skateboarder. I want to be a professional skateboarder. In college, I'd be a professional video game player. That's baloney. Absolute baloney. The follow your passion perspective is baloney. And the passionless pilot is a guy that writes on it. And he he has fighter pilot students. And after graduating from flight school, like, oh, is this it? Really? I have to be a pilot? Oh man, I thought I was passionate about planes. I saw Top Gun, and I thought I was passionate about planes. Baloney. So I think just understanding that, taking the contrarian view. Mike Rowe talks about it, the founder of Dirty Jobs. He talks about happiness does not come from a job. It comes from acting in a way that you value. Acting in a way that you value is far critical than finding something that you just happen to be passionate about that week. Because your passions are going to change. I mean, every time I'm passionate about a new lady, I marry somebody else. Oh, that's a recipe for success, disaster. And then I'm passionate about a new job. I'm just like, going to a new job, another recipe for disaster. So whoever came up with this follow your passion baloney is wrong. And that's what I have to say about that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Does anybody else have any thoughts, ideas, questions? You can put it in the chat if
Thanks, Laura.
If you have some bad reception. I think one thing that David and I have been talking a lot about, while we wait and see if anybody posts in, but just the idea of entrepreneurship, while you're still serving and trying to find a mission and a purpose. And that's kind of what we're making an attempt at right now is trying to build out that platform, and it doesn't have to be a full-blown business. It could be a blog, it could be a podcast, it could be writing a book, it could be, serving and creating a nonprofit or just serving for a nonprofit. I think there's lots of ways that you can find a mission and a purpose while you're still on that first mountain. And so that makes that jump to the second mountain a little easier. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So had I not had meaning through my small business, through DoD Reads, and meaning through real estate and the relationships that those provided, that transition would have been much harder. So, real estate is a people business, and developing those networks. And, fortunately I had my small business, I had the Navy, and I had real estate, and I only lost one. But for guys that don't have a small business, don't have a side gig or a side network or a meaning outside, it could be a volunteer, a volunteer community that they work with, certainly makes it much harder. So yeah, military is a great time to do it. To have that side job, because your job is going to be very cyclical. You're going to be really busy, and then you're not going to be very busy for a while, and then you're going to be really busy, and then COVID's going to hit, and everything's going to stop. So a job that you can pick up, drop down, pick up, drop down, and that's what I did through my career. During the times that I was not busy, worked on my business. During times I was busy, just able just to drop it and just walk away for a couple of years and then come back. And that was the foundation or the seeds of what's materialized into DoD Reads.
And I'd argue that the real estate, the money machines that you talked about, you don't really ever have to drop that. You can do those all along the way, and those will continue to be a mission and a purpose in creating that wealth that you can start for and have for a long time.
I think in the same line of thinking as having multiple lines of income and having these, different passive, different assets, whatever it is that you're doing, in the same kind of mindset, I think diversifying and spending time on who you are, and whether that's when you're in the military, if it's you're developing businesses on the side, or you're developing something, you're developing yourself, you're looking at different things that are not necessarily directly tied to the military and constantly evolving. I think it really helps that trajectory, right? You don't fall into that valley because you're not a one-trick pony. And I think that's highly valuable, and people diversify their investments all the time, but they don't diversify their mental, physical, spiritual growth. They don't diversify, the mentors that they pick up through reading and different professional development or self-development. I think those are all key. And just looking at your reading list and from the numerous talks that we've had, there's a ton of that, right? Which I think is so important. So yeah, I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's an article. It's called 8 Forms of Capital. And when we think of capital, we think of money. Like, well, you're rich because you got money. Or you're financially independent, whatever. Well, it's more than just the money. It's your education. It's your health. It's your free time. Those are all different forms of capital that you can, it's your family that you can leverage. So don't just focus on one form of capital, money. Focus on those other forms that David had talked about. Focus on knowing yourself. You'd be a very, very poor man if you had a ton of money but didn't know yourself, didn't have family, didn't have free time, didn't have spiritual growth. Real poor guy.
That's good stuff, man. Well, anybody else? Any other thoughts before we end this thing? We're getting close to the hour mark, and that's where we kind of want to end it.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the notes here.
Yeah, I know Chris says that he wants to talk about some mechanics with you, but at another time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know me on LinkedIn, I can put my LinkedIn profile on there too. Feel free to reach out, email, LinkedIn. That's usually where I hang out.
And we're gonna we'll record this and we'll send this out in an email to everyone that registered. We'll post it on YouTube with a private link, and then our intention is to turn this into one of our podcast episodes too, so people can hear it.
Okay, sounds good.
It's definitely worthwhile to listen to on a future episode. So John, thank you, man. This was good. Really got me thinking, and I know it was incredibly beneficial to all those that joined with us tonight, and hopefully it will be beneficial to those that didn't join us but still will get to listen to it. So
yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad I was able to. Glad we were able to talk.
Is there anything that you need? Is there anything that those that are that you're serving need that we can help with? That we can send you, because I know that we've had discussions like that before. Any of the people that you're helping down there in Mexico right now.
Yeah. So thanks for asking. I did put the organizations that I have in the resource link. So if you'd like to learn more about those, I do have the 4 organizations. They can always use prayer. They can always use the support that's in there. That's in their website. One thing that's interesting is when I came down to work in conjunction with some of the orphanages, is I expected big funds, big donors to be the one that provides the majority of the support for this. And I was actually just yesterday stamping envelopes, and we stamped about 3,000 envelopes, and their funding comes in $5, $10, $15, $20 at a time. So it's not Bill Gates that is supporting these ventures. It's folks, you and me, that just do it a little bit at a time, and also come down. I'm going to be here for at least the next 9 months, and love to, if you're interested in come down with the group. If you're interested, we can certainly facilitate that once things open up a bit. But yeah, please reach out to me, and I can certainly help you with those things.
Awesome, man. We'll put all those organizations in the show notes as well. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody that jumped on the call. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, everyone have a great evening. And John, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, John.
Take care.